This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are going to go over XRP line of credit today and the implications of that, and some things we want to try to understand a little more clearly, and to ask a whole bunch of questions about the things that we don't understand clearly. One other thing we're going to touch on before we get out of here too is the flare announcement. But before we go any further, we're doing all of this with Micky B. Fresh. Micky B., how you doing, man?
I'm great, Brad. Great to be back on the show.
It is great to have you back on the show. Now, look, I know we got a lot to talk about. We're going to try to keep this thing tight and condensed for everybody. So the line of credit from Ripple, I think, was huge news. Let me start off with reading this to the audience and you, and then let's just dig into it from there. So here we go. Ripple writes, send now, pay later with a line of credit. Freeing up capital for customers' cross-border transactions can be inefficient. At the same time, creating credit arrangements for each destination market is time-consuming. With a line of credit from Ripple, your financial institution can use XRP to complete instant, low cross-border transfers. We allow you to lock in a rate at the time of payment, then repay us when it's convenient for you for a small fee. Now, it says here also in small print, by the way, Micky, only for use by eligible institutional RippleNet customers, not customers, general public, retail customers. Availability varies by jurisdiction and subject to change. Micky B. Fresh, where do you want to start with this thing?
Well, I think this is interesting that they come out at this time with the line of credit because on top of everything that you said that's capable with this, what it does is it puts the XRP wallets in the hands of the customers now. Ooh. So instead of ODL, where they don't have to necessarily touch the XRP or hold it, now you're setting them up with a hosted wallet, which has XRP in it already. And now they remove one leg of the ODL transactions, because once they have this pile of XRP, they can now just send payments off into all the ODL corridors, but possibly other corridors that, as long as somebody else or a market maker or an institution has XRP and payout capabilities, they could just send right there. They don't have to go to an exchange, put fiat and buy the XRP through them. They could just send right from there. And I think that's monumental in scaling up the network now.
I think that's a huge observation that you're making here. And I think it is very strategic, and it is smart that they've come out here. You know, you said this before we went live, and it's like, who else is in a position to do this and to lend lines of credit like this? I mean, this is a pretty smart move, right?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, in a way, if you look at it, this is not capital that cost them anything.
Right.
This is basically the seigniorage of having that XRP that they've been using to incentivize the network. And this is another form of incentivizing building up the network. It's almost like a bank. When you get a mortgage on it, you know, the bank is fractionally lending that money, but it's not coming out of actually their, capital expenses. And the same goes for Ripple doing this. It's not costing them anything to loan. So as many, we know they have about 5-6 billion. So say even if they allocated a couple billion towards this, that's a whole lot of funding towards these payment service providers, remittance providers, and like you said, they could be even businesses, SMEs, or corporates.
Absolutely. It did say in the original release which, I don't have up here right this second for them to see, but in the original press release on this, it did say to make payments or to scale your business. And I thought when I heard that, I was like, wow, now, I mean, this is really reaching out to, the SMEs and the corporates in a way here that can really help them right now today. When I think of things like them wanting to scale their business because they maybe it is a payments company and they need some capital to open up more corridors of lines of payment, or maybe it's just a small medium business enterprise that needs to get a line of credit so they can cover this terrible pandemic and liquidity crisis that we're all trapped in right now. It could be all of these things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of these small payment providers and SMEs can't afford to have like the Nostro accounts over in other banks and, tie up all that capital, and they don't have the funding to be able to do it. This allows them to then be able to reach out into those other corridors and make payments and offer services to their customers. Because I think that's one thing this comes down to, the ability to be able to give the payment providers a chance for their customers, and it also could go directly to the corporates. I mean, because they did say, Ripple, this is like, I look at this as like a tier 2 part of Ripple, because they didn't say this was for the banks. That might have already occurred the last 3 years, this line of credit.
Yeah.
So sorry, switch up here, but I think it's important to note, Ripple is no stranger to this line of credit.
Right. No, I think you're making a huge point that needs to be made. Let me build off of that point with a question to you. And the question here is, look, Brian Brooks from the OCC has said that the reason he wants to put out this new regulatory framework and these letters is to bring clarity not only to the crypto space and blockchain firms and companies, but it's about payments. And he talks about Venmos and the PayPals and the Squares, and it would include Ripple, I would imagine, at this point as well, and even cryptocurrency exchanges. And he talks about these things that these businesses are doing is banking activities. That's how he sees them. So with that being said, and what your thoughts were just a second ago, is Ripple a bank, or are we watching a central bank be born? What are we seeing here?
That's a complicated question. But Brian Brooks said there were 3 parts to lending. It was taking 3 parts to banking, payments, bank deposits, and then lending. So if you're doing one of those activities, bank deposits, I know they're not doing, but in a way they're doing XRP bank deposits because they're able to lend XRP the same way banks lend off of bank deposits.
Right.
But they are doing the lending part. So there is a possibility that they would fit into the bank charter, because it would give them that more ability to lend, because they're calling this a line of credit. They're not going as far as saying a loan, but they very easily can take it to the next level if they had that clarity in the future. But I think it's also important to note, for the full bank license, we have Standard Custody having a pending trust charter in New York State, which once they get, they could then apply for the bank in all 50 states and be like what Kraken is.
Got it.
Very easily. So you could kind of have these 2 entities working in a way where Ripple's maybe not a full-scale bank, but could do some banking activity, and then where Standard Custody is the full digital bank.
Well, this brings up that whole idea of Standard Custody, PolySign, if the clients are getting a wallet to receive the XRP, yada, yada.
Great
Take
point.
me there. Where are we going, Mickey?
Well, if you're going to be giving a line of credit to XRP, these customers on RippleNet just can't have XRP. They need a custodian wallet, which is going to have to come along with all the key management with that, the custody of those assets, the transaction recording. That's where they built PolySign is building for. It's the infrastructure, and then those applications that maybe they're going to offer to their customers are going to be linked with those wallets. maybe those wallets will then have their customers' wallets under them. And this is where they've been building for the future. And I think this is where eventually, hopefully we see it this year, but we're getting close to the point where PolySign Inc. and their subsidiaries are going to start coming out, because now we're talking about, hosted wallets, customers holding XRP. This is right in their ballpark and kind of away from Ripple's a little.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that, additional entity come out soon. I mean, it's hard to speculate exactly what PolySign, but this is in their ballpark. Let's put it that way with the hosted wallets.
It absolutely feels that way. And, it leads to a couple questions that I want to go into. And listen, we might not know the answers, but I know I want to hear your thoughts on it. And that is, number one, if everybody as a customer is getting a wallet for XRP in this line of credit, what's the tax implications on that? Number two, I want you to speak on is this like DeFi? I mean, it says here, with a line of credit from Ripple, your financial institution can use XRP to complete instant low-cost cross-border transfers. And it says we allow you to lock in a rate at the time of payment, then repay us when it's convenient for you for a small fee. Now, that sounds like a DeFi pitch right there, with the open-ended term, and as long as it's yours, but you got to pay it back. You can't access, the capital on that asset until it's been satisfied. What in the hell does that mean?
Basically what they're doing is getting their toes wet. That's how I look at this, because it's not a full-blown DeFi solution. But at the same time, we don't know exactly all the details yet. Right. But I think it's safe to say, you said, we're heading in that direction.
Right.
That's where their solutions are going to be headed. But I think there's a process where you have to get these traditional institutions accepting of that. It's going to take a little time because DeFi is still an immature. But that's, I think, where we're ultimately headed. And there's no doubt that this is coming. Now with the Flare network and everything that's capable there with smart contracts and them focusing on institutional, this is where we are headed. But I think, you make a great point that, open-ended, we might get some more details at Swell. And that would be really nice to be able to really understand exactly how this works. Because they're just saying open-ended term. I mean, you don't see too many loans that have open-ended terms, and that is like DeFi in a way.
It really is like that in a way. And the other thing, you have to start, I've seen a couple people ask this question, and in lieu of the idea of understanding that each borrower is going to have a wallet and get that XRP in. So in my mind, and you straighten me out if I'm wrong here, Micky, because I want to walk through this idea too. I get $100,000 line of credit, okay, from Ripple, and it's going to allow me to have access to that. Now I'm going to be given $100,000 worth of XRP. Am I correct? It's going to go in my wallet. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so at the current prices, let's just call that 25 cents. We'll call it 400,000 XRP. Well, if XRP goes up, don't I now have that in my wallet, and I'm gaining headroom in my asset, like the house going up in value here?
Well, if it's denominated in XRP, it actually would be, if the price of XRP goes down, now you're paying actually less XRP back.
That's right.
That would be where the tax implication would come in if the price went down. Because now you're paying actually less in dollar amount back. But if it goes up, you're paying the same amount of XRP back.
Right. But if that XRP, that 400,000 XRP is in my wallet and it was worth 25 cents, that's how I got the 400,000 delivered to my wallet. And in the process, it goes up to $1. Haven't I now? What happens there?
That's the question. We don't know exactly what the loan is denominated in. We know they're giving them a line of credit on the XRP. So do they have to pay, could there be an option? Okay, if XRP goes up, you only have to pay the fiat back. you could keep the rest of the XRP. But is there tax implications on that then? We just don't know all the details. The reason why I say if it goes down, I'm referencing their 2016 agreement with R3 when they loaned 40 million XRP to the banks during that proof of concept. And it said in there that if the price goes down, there could be implications. But it didn't say anything if it goes up. But that's we don't know the terms of the loan. They could structure this loan in a very beneficial way for the recipients of the loan because they don't need to benefit on it.
Isn't it amazing? Because this seems like a more refined, targeted version, or actually not targeted, but it just seems like a more refined version, more financial version of the accelerator program with the seniorage that went on with that. They allocated 300 million XRP to be able to pre-allocate those out to the right areas of industry, to be able to stimulate those different corridors of activity, whether it be payment providers or remittance companies or whatever it was at the time. And this seems like a more, and I guess it is more targeted, right? Because we're talking about SMEs at this point. We're talking about a broader audience, but or a marketplace, but it's still highly targeted here for this line of credit. Now, this reminds me, Micky, of that Dilip Rao comment that he made in the conference at that one point. And I hope he's having a great retirement and new chapter of life. All the best to Dilip Rao. But I'm reminded in this moment of when he talked about, first you get him to, use it, right? And then you get him to hold it. The Holy Grail was getting him to hold it. It was like, you know what I mean? One was getting him to use the software, two was getting him to use the asset, and three was getting him to hold the asset as the Holy Grail. That's what it was. And I'm reminded of that comment right now when I see this, because this, in fact, is the Holy Grail of getting everyone to take lines of credit and to get XRP in their wallets. We're locking up the XRP. We're showing the benefit of it as an asset, right? And by the way, don't forget, what was it, last quarter, in what Q2, they told us Ripple is allowed and will be going to the secondary market exchanges to be able to buy it back off the market.
Yeah, that could be very well related to this whole process. And it's very well, they could have been running these lines of credit with the banks in like the tier one part of RippleNet for the past 3 years. And we have no idea. Yep. That's been going on. This really opens a lot up. And I think it is extension of the accelerator program because like the video the interview you did with Bob Way, when he specifically said, you could have an escrow that has other conditions based on it. So these lines of credit can have conditions. Since Ripple doesn't necessarily need the XRP back, if they fulfill certain conditions, whatever they might be, either a certain amount of payments into different corridors, accepting XRP and payouts into their domestic corridors, these can be conditions that could be used to incentivize them to use XRP, and maybe they don't have to pay it all back, or they get a discount on what they have to pay back. So there's many different ways this could be structured, and I think it is absolutely an extension of the accelerator program.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, man. It really feels like a more refined version of where we're going here. And it almost seems like you can see the levers and mechanics of a new system taking place where they're lending from their personal holdings at Ripple, which is a $6 billion plus, and they're doing these lines of credit. And now as Ripple sees themselves with the decoupling of the XRP ledger and the nonprofit independent foundation built behind it now. It's almost like it's been shoved out of the nest, fly and be free, right? And now that Ripple sees theirself, according to that last quarter report, as a customer out in this industry, in this space, as any other customer that holds XRP at this point, and they can go out and buy it back off the market because they're a lender of it. And why wouldn't I, as Ripple, participate in that seniorage experiment, right? Where it's like, hey, I just lent this, I'm going to go out on the market and buy that much back off the market.
Absolutely. I mean, they're acting like kind of like a central bank treasury function in a way here, like a combination. And like a new type of central bank, based on an, decentralized open ledger, but they're able to do all that functionality and not affect the underlying protocols or any other rules or controlling the network. They're just managing the supply.
Yeah, this
and demand,
that's what it seems like, right? I mean, you just said it. It is exactly what it seems like, that this is monetary policy we're watching happen here.
Exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. I just would like to add one thing what I thought about with the DeFi. To really make that DeFi, we would need the smart contract capabilities, which you could see come from like what PolySign said, which is their third generation private blockchain.
Right.
Most likely has smart contracts. So that's where we could then see the true DeFi come from, because we do need the smart contracts for that.
I think that's an excellent point of view and point to be made, because thinking of that, it comes down to what we just spoke out a few minutes ago, is that they're not just lending this to just anybody. It even says in the small print, it's use eligible institutional RippleNet customers, not consumers, right? And general public,
not consumers.
And that's because you are contractually bound to a certain kind of requirements and things that you have to meet from your end, and Ripple will meet from their end. And this is really another form of pre-allocating the XRP and lending it out and getting those contractual agreements in place, so you can absolutely guarantee that none of these players that are participating as market participants here and borrowers will turn around and dump on the market. They're not able to. They're going to be contractually held to some standard here.
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to be under contract. So they're going to be incentivized not to do that. There's going to be reasons why they're only going to give this out to entities who have the established connections and want to make payments and have been there for a while. And then other members of RippleNet these are really like the users of RippleNet. I look at it as we'll see them doing that and be like, okay, well, if I do this, this, and this, then I could get access to the line of credit too. So we have hundreds of payment providers. So it's not like we're talking about 5.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure they've been testing this out. I think it's safe to assume that this has probably been going on with MoneyGram for the past couple months. I mean, we think of how they've been paying back, all that stuff going on behind the scenes. It sounds pretty like it's related to this. As she said, it's been in beta for the last few months.
Absolutely. And to your point, MoneyGram came out with some news this morning. They were up like 170-some%.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
In transactions and digital transactions, I believe, was the actual statement, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, holy moly. I mean, talk about something going well. I mean, they kind of just stayed quiet for a few months, but they definitely have been beta testing this out. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So look, I mean, unless you have anything else, let's move on, because Flare just recently came out with an announcement. And listen, there is a lot of questions about Flare, and there's a lot of excitement about Flare. I know you're excited about Flare. I'm excited about Flare. I have not moved my holdings to receive Spark tokens yet, in full disclosure to the millions of people that have been wondering here, or the tens of people that have been wondering, I should say. But to the tens of people that have been wondering, I would say that it doesn't mean that I'm not excited about what's coming. I just know that I still have some time, because December's when the snapshot's going to be taken on the ledger, right? And let's go with the announcements. Mickey, you first.
Yeah, same here. In full disclosure, I'm still waiting. We have time for that. So, we're not going to go into the whole airdrop, and, I think that's been covered. But what we're going to cover right now is the recent blog post that Flare released, which is the Trustless bridge back to the XRP ledger, which is the first trustless gateway, basically, the XRP ledger ever had. And this is one thing that David Schwartz, if you've ever picked up, and he's said it in a couple interviews over the past few years, things that he is excited about seeing are trustless gateways. And this allows those assets that are issued on Flare as F assets, say security tokens, say bonds, say, commodity-backed assets or tokens
Sure.
could now come over to the XRP ledger. And also, collateralized fiat-pegged stablecoins could now come over to the ledger that are backed by XRP, which is what David Schwartz's stablecoin video last year foreshadowed, was what this announcement was. And I think this is huge because now the XRP ledger finally will be able to get the utility out of the ledger that it hasn't been able to been used fully.
Right. Yeah, no, well said. And it is very exciting because I'm going to throw a word out here that everybody's heard. And there is a I guess danger is the word, but for being in this space as long as we all have, we hear so many profound things, I believe, or at least I'm speaking from my own perspective, that a lot of these really profound things that we understand, learn, or come to know become very casual when we speak about them. And one of those things is interoperability. And that's what you're talking about here. You're talking about the interoperability to work between another network and other networks. Talk about this, Micky.
You're right. This is basically, I guess you would say this is the holy grail of interoperability, because the agents on Flare are running nodes on the XRP ledger and on Flare. Now, they're going to do this with Ethereum soon, and then you'll have a trustless bridge to Ethereum where XRP will be able to be used in Uniswap, Balancer, Compound, MakerDAO in a trustless way, and you won't have to trust any entity. Like wrapped Bitcoin is a centralized solution. You have to trust the entity wrapping it. Even Binance, when you use Bitcoin in one of their DeFi, you have to trust Binance. With this system that Flare's building, it's completely trustless.
Yeah.
And it has all the consumer protections in it because it's based in the smart contract and it's transparent and visible. So XRP is going to be able to get used on all of Ethereum like any other ERC20 token soon.
Right.
That's coming next. And it's also going to have, now the XRP ledger will have access to all the F assets issued on Flare. Will be able to come over to the XRP ledger, traded on the internal exchange on the XRP ledger now. And that's one thing that in the past, you had to trust the gateway who was issuing the asset and set up the trust lines. Now you don't have to do all that. It's trustless. And I think that's a breakthrough in the technology. And I think that's going to really be profound in a couple of years from now. As this develops out and it scales, they're setting up the infrastructure for institutional use and retail use on Flare. And Pay ID now coming, if we move into that too, with open payments and Interledger is going to be able to underpin all the DeFi applications and wallets for retail and institutional use and enterprise use.
Absolutely, man. This is getting very exciting, and because look, it's not just about what we're discussing today, which is some pretty enormous things happening, but it's in the backdrop of watching all the regulation around the world. Obviously, the Monetary Authority in Singapore and the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK and Malta and Liechtenstein and Japan, and a lot of these places have some real clarity going on when it comes to crypto and blockchain, and a lot of places are getting clarity very quickly. Like here in the United States, we see the OCC with the last two letters, and they have said, Brian Brooks has said himself, a constant cadence of information will be coming out from the OCC in the coming weeks and months. And then the SEC with the no action letter against security tokens and digital or alternative trading platforms that deal with those digital securities. Now, if I'm not mistaken,
that's Flare.
That's Flare, right? We're seeing
they're going to be able to issue security tokens right on Flare, and then there could be a security token exchange that plugs right in on top of it, and very easily.
When I touch into this, because I know we're going to wrap here in a minute or two, but when I touch into that idea, I touch into the notion of the recent news too about the digital dollar. The digital dollar has got 9 pilot projects that are going on. Now, if anybody thought that the U.S. was behind, they may say so from the legislative angle, right? But listen, it's like it is obvious to me when I see these things, and you go through the 9 pilot program areas that they're working with the digital dollar, and it's cross-border payments. It's a pilot program with the DTC to settle $4 trillion a day. I mean,
that's needed. That's a must.
How does and listen? And there's a great possibility that this could link up through Flare if needed, right? I mean, it's like this.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not. We're not saying that the DTC is going to run or Flare or anything.
No,
but we're going to see security tokens issued for all types of
things,
securities, from private securities to VC funding, to public IPOs. The first one was just announced. I think it's INX, which is going to be the first public IPO done through security tokens.
Now that's
pretty exciting.
Pretty damn
and it goes along with that SEC announcement. So this platform that Flare is able to do, and I think it's also important that it's Ethereum based.
Yeah,
it's not Ethereum mainnet, but that is pretty much the standard for smart contracts and addresses. So that choice, I think, was very important, because that's what I believe the DTCC did with Project Whitney, was it, or Ion?
Whitney and Ion. Ion was, I believe, I may have it mixed up, but one of them obviously was about tokenizing assets and settling them off the system there.
Yeah, and they talked about being Ethereum based.
Yes.
So we always just look at that like, oh, that's Ethereum, we're XRP. But now, anything that's Ethereum based, look at Quorum. JPM sent it to consensus. Now Flare could connect right to any private Ethereum blockchain with no problem. And you'll have that interoperability, because when they build the Trustless bridge, they're going to have nodes on both ledgers. So they'll be able to digest the full transactions from that network. And I think that's really like the holy grail of interoperability. I mean, you're literally plugging into that network and extracting all the data from it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Micky, this is humongous. The news is fantastic here. I think we should probably wrap right there. We'll keep it short and sweet. I think that's a really great conversation on the XRP line of credit from Ripple, and the questions that look, there's a lot more questions than we have answers. And that's the point of today, is to really stimulate the audience to say, hey, ask these questions that we're asking. Let's see if we can collectively all find some more answers. And if you have more questions out there as an audience, put them in the comment section below, because you and I will stay on the comment section and see if we can get answers. Yeah,
because we're going to talk more about the Flare. Like, we only touch briefly on what is possible there, because we could do a whole video on just Flare alone.
And we're going to, by the way, too. I mean, and I think we're going to make that a very special video when we sit down and do that, man. No doubt about it. And you know why. All right. Micky B. Fresh.
Thank you.
On the scene. No, thank you, man. And I know, and I say thank you not on behalf of just myself, but everybody out here listen to the video and your insights, because you are a treasured member of this entire asset space, man. Thank you so much, Micky.
Thank you for having me, Brad. Have a good day, everyone.
You too, my friend. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye now.
All right, bye.